topic for today is, do you want to be healed? Do you want to be made well? Perhaps you've heard of the fellow who bought a set of Venetian blinds, and he had Venetian blind rage because he couldn't get them to go back down once he pulled them up. And he was ready to return them with a few angry words, and then he looked and he saw his foot standing on the pull cord. Have you ever done that? Have you ever discovered it's you causing the problem that you're so upset about? Many times we would benefit if we would realize our own responsibility. It may be more than one person relating to one another, but nevertheless, sometimes we forget to take our part in the responsibility for the issues that there may be between us, or between ourselves and the world around us. Anyway, when we have problems, it's tempted to point our fingers at external causes, take attention away from ourselves. Somehow we're fearful of taking a good look inward. When it's easier to look outward, finding someone to blame, something to blame. Someone else is to fault, and point out circumstances that are beyond our control, perhaps. The crippled man just heard about in the Bible had spent 38 years just feet away from a source of healing, and yet there he was, still remaining unhealed. Incredible. Or maybe not. Maybe we can even recognize something in it. How many folks do you know, including yourself, of course, myself, I'm including too, who carry personal problems unresolved and unhealed for days and weeks and sometimes years, hopefully not 38 years, even though help and opportunities to heal them have been close at hand all the time. But we haven't either seen them or been willing to take that inward look, recognize our need, and accept the help that's so available. We become weary of some of the problems we carry with us and yet never choose to do the things we could and are totally available to us to do that would heal us and others around us and resolve some issues that have remained conflicting for a long time. When that's the case, we need reminding of the old adage or proverb that points out the obvious. If you keep on doing the same thing, you can probably complete that, you will keep getting the same results. And still wondering why, perhaps. Choosing to let problems go and choosing not to heal them might be compared to building your house near the San Andreas Fault, wondering why there are cracks in your ceiling. Well, it's puzzling that some folks abuse various substances for non-medical reasons and yet are clueless as to why their jobs or their families or their friends are gradually washed away. And clueless as to why their bodies eventually show the signs of wear from poisons inhaled and ingested and digested, when in fact healing for such illnesses has been right at their doorstep for a long time, offering a whole new world, a whole new way to live our lives, as the words of that solo reminded us. It is puzzling as some folks will fail to exercise and then wonder why their endurance is lagging when they're perfectly capable of exercising. Strange that we sometimes find ourselves hanging on to problems rather than wanting to learn how to let go of them, and embracing instead opportunities to be made whole and to move forward without trailing these things behind us. The crippled man in the account with Jesus tried to justify his unhealed problem by citing external causes. First, he said, there's no one around here to help me get to that pool over there where the healing could take place. Nobody here to help me. And second, everything he tried to Every time he tried to get to the place of healing, someone would get there first, would beat him to it. The defense might work for a couple of days, but for 38 years? Hope you're smiling behind your mask, because it is kind of ludicrous. I'm smiling. You just can't tell. I recognize your smiling eyes. I'm trying anyway. If only we could always see and be honest with ourselves when we are the ones who need healing of something and have refused the offer so close at hand. Instead, we're often slow to heal a broken relationship by being the first to humble ourselves and go and say, I'm sorry. Slow in going to someone who has hurt us with the wonderful good news, I forgive you. Loving others as we have been loved by God. It translates into that. Slow to admit we're addicted to something or in need of help and support of others to kick the habit. We're slow to depart from the circle of friends who pressure us to do some things that aren't quite right in order to maintain their friendship and our popularity with them. We are often slow to do what we know is right when doing so threatens that popularity. It's peer pressure. Slow to call the counselor, give a relationship another chance. Slow to admit that we are wrong and someone else is right, and to admit that we both play a part in it, including ourselves. We're responsible for ourselves. Slow to enjoy all kinds of people who are different from ourselves. It's such a joy that we miss when we don't achieve that. If we could become as good at seeing ourselves at a distance as we are at seeing the behaviors and the choices of others around us, we'd surely save a lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted opportunities for beautiful things to happen, be healed a whole lot sooner, and get on with joyful living for which God has ordained us to be. Healing is often as close as taking a good look at ourselves as we are contributing to a situation that needs to be healed. It's puzzling how a crippled man could spend 38 years of his life just a few feet away from the source of help that could heal his illness, and yet never arrange a way to make the trip to that pool over there. It's a short distance away. But as usually the case, the story in the Bible is not just about Jesus and a person who needed to be healed. It's about you and me, about us. That's where it becomes up close and personal and does something to change. About you and me when we're resistant to recognizing our need to be healed of anything. It's about you and me whose reluctance to give up old habits and familiar ways cause the world to be less than peaceful and just. It's about you and me when old habits and familiar ways leave relationships broken for long periods of time rather than healing them. It's about you and me when we complain about other people, about how some other things are not going well in our lives, and yet do not recognize that healing often requires changes from within ourselves rather than from without. We overlook the obvious, which is if we keep doing the same things, we'll keep getting those same results and wondering why. Did the crippled man in the story really have to get to the water in the pool to be healed? That there was something magic about H2O touching his body? No. I was surprised. When you read that, it sounds like that's the answer. That was a superstition about an angel troubling the water in the pool, and the first one to get there would be miraculously healed when the water was troubled. He didn't need to come to the water to be healed. He needed to come to Jesus. He needed to come to that relationship It's a whole new way to live our days. A whole new way. And that's what happens when we come to that relationship. Makes a huge difference. Jesus doesn't let a person continue to play games. He asks the question, do you want to? Do you really want to be made well? Do you want your world to be really made well? As if to say there is a way. But do you really want that healing to happen in you and then in the world around you because you're living in that whole new way that Bruce was singing about? And it was when this person accepted the invitation and entered into that relationship with Jesus to learn from him, to follow him, to be a disciple of his, and to follow in that whole new way, that he was suddenly healed. He could stand up and he could walk and go places and leave things behind and move forward again. Being healed and made well in a relationship with Jesus, he can use us, and his mission then becomes our mission. That's a pretty exciting thing. As soon as you relate to Jesus, his mission becomes yours and mine. And that gives us a sense of purpose right away in a whole new way. God's mission for us calls us out of ourselves to give home to the homeless, food to the hungry, refreshment to those who thirst, and welcome to the stranger, and clothing to those who can't afford it, and company to those who are imprisoned, and imprisoned in a symbolic way, in many ways incarcerated in their own lives by various things that take control of their lives, and care for those who are ill, and a whole lot more. Do you really want to be healed? Do you really want the world to be healed? Let it happen in you, and then through you, to the world around you. It's a huge blessing. And yes, I'm smiling. I hope you are too. Make that choice. Pursue that choice. Figure out what it means to come to that relationship, to learn from, to follow, to be a disciple. And I guess I've said it enough. A whole new way. Thank you.